Did you see what Jake said where he said,
I'm all KSI has. He's literally nothing without the Paul brothers.
Your level of opponents have been so much better, and you're so much better than KSI, then why make such a fuss, man? Misfits has a very, very strong year ahead of it. I've got big plans for Darren Till, so he's gonna have a fun year ahead of him.
you see, I see a smirk there, man. You seem very excited by it.
This will dwarf the Prime card.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Misfits News. We have a fantastic episode in store with the main man himself, Mams Taylor, some X Series 21 debrief, some community questions, and some insight into what's next. But before we get into everything, Mams, how are you, sir?
I'm great, man. Really good. I'm really happy with Misfits 21. On the whole, I think it was good. Always, I haven't finished watching it back yet, but I will tonight. I'm about halfway through, and there's always notes for improvement, and that's what, honestly, I'll always focus on that rather than the celebration. I'm like, how do we get this to be perfect? So, that's just my character. That's what I'll always do. So I'm focusing on that, but generally very happy with the show. I think I'm very happy with the fights, the fighters. They showed up. With a couple of exceptions, who didn't throw too many punches. But they were Modine and Wakey Wines, but they were very entertaining in the lead up. But yeah, man, I think everyone brought it. It was a good event, very solid. One of my favorite non-pay-per-views, to be honest.
This was a really fantastic night. I think exactly what Misfits needed. And before we get into the war that was Darren Till and Darren Stewart, I want to take it all the way back to the first fight of the night. Dylan Price, 19-0, silver titleist, super bantamweight, gets knocked out by Kari Kenny Mencia in round number 8. What was your immediate reaction to that?
Disbelief.
Yeah.
And look, I've seen Dylan fight. I know what he's capable of. I saw him at the press conference, and he didn't look himself. He even said, like, "I'm sorry, I'm not myself, guys." And I was disappointed because that's your time to shine and show personality and show people why they should invest in you as a character on Misfits, but I also felt for him, and I questioned, how was his cut? How's this cut going for him? The weigh-ins are tomorrow, and he's depleted right now. I haven't spoken to him about that, but we've exchanged some messages and voice notes, and obviously immediately after, my heart, I felt for him a lot. I don't think he expected that any more than we did, and but I felt like, even throughout the commentary, I was saying, like, yes, he's winning the rounds, but this isn't the Dylan Price I'm used to seeing. So I think his game was a little off. Yeah, man, he got punished. What was it, the 7th or 8th round?
8th round.
8th round, yeah.
Yeah. So look, I'm disappointed for him. I'm with him. I want him to have another shot. I think he could redeem that. Same with like Ashton Silva.
Yeah.
I think 99 times out of 100 they win that fight, and sometimes that 1% comes into play.
So
Hundred
where do you think Dylan actually goes from there? How does he come back from a fight like that?
Well, a couple of things. I think when you're 19-1, you suddenly start looking appealing to people who are prospective champions, prospective contenders. So it's like, oh, this guy's 19-1, but this is they'll study tape and they'll be like, well, let's fight him. And like Tank Davis against Roach, Tank underestimated him, and then Roach has had a moment. Even though they had a draw, a lot of people thought he won. So he could be that guy. He could come back and redeem that loss. If he loses the rematch, then he's got to consider other options. The pro game is very different, and it's more unforgiving than the crossover game. Certainly more unforgiving than the influencer game. So he needs to right that wrong and come back and see where he stands, you know. But let's see. I still everyone can have an off day, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's what it was. And you know, I like the kid a lot. He's a great kid. He's very talented, and let's see how he performs next time he's on the big stage.
And I think in the effort of right Misfits trying to always revolutionize, go against the grain, not banishing someone for losing their undefeated record is certainly within that vein. So I'm curious to see what Dylan does next on Misfits. But a couple other things before we get to that main event: the heavyweight survivor tag. Now I love this. I thought it was fantastic. All the storylines were great. It seemed like the tagging in and tagging out was more refined. I think the only really tough spot was the judging. But what was your thought on the heavyweight survivor tag?
The judging, I don't know
Yeah.
if I don't know if it was. I haven't seen that fight yet, actually. But I was going nuts at the judges, and they're like, "Look, you're not helping. This extra pressure." And I'm like, because I kept coming back and forth, and I'm like, "What the fuck? They're ruining this. They're ruining this." Like, you know, you should have your numbers ready. But listen, next time there's a survivor tag, it'll go like it went with the second elimination
Yeah.
with Godson. That was, I saw the scorecards, I saw what they were, and I told the announcer Huss, I said, it's Godson, it's Godson. He's like, what should I say? I said, say it now, just say it now. Like no
Yeah.
more waiting. We don't do that. So next time I'm gonna make damn sure that everyone's ready to go, because I feel like they killed the flow of it, but I do feel like it came back and it was like nothing ever happened as well, you know. But
I agree.
it's not fair to the fans or the fighters to have that longer disruption. So listen, we'll get it right. We're getting close, and it's improved from the last Survivor tag, and I think people by and large really enjoyed it. So more of that to come.
Well, Temple Arts obviously winning that, coming in emphatic fashion after taking some time off. And I think we actually agreed upon the winner of that would take on the winner of Chase versus Tank Tolman. Obviously, Chase got knocked down in the first round. We were all very surprised by that. And then he came back and got a spectacular knockout. So can we expect the rematch now between Temple Arts and Chase Moore?
We can expect that. That's definitely on the cards. Tempo Art's next fight will be a title shot. Chase may have one fight before that. So
Ooh.
if Chase remains the champion, then absolutely that's the fight. And
And
I
he,
believe, you know, I believe he's made so many improvements. I really believe in the kid. I like him a lot. And to come back from being knocked down shows a lot of resilience as well.
I just got to ask though, what was the thinking in bringing Kells into the ring? He seemed to have his own idea of what he's entitled to, and I think myself and many fans would disagree with some of the things Kells was saying.
I couldn't hear much of what he said. I just could hear the lack of reaction. So, look,
Yeah.
the zone loved that stuff, and he seemed like he had something prepared. I thought it would go down. You know, I thought there
You
would be
thought it
more
would
to
go
it.
better?
I did, and honestly, look, if I'm about to get in the ring, and
Mhm.
I'm not that known with the audience, I'm gonna make a fucking statement.
yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
make sure you get to know me. I'm gonna use that opportunity and that airtime to be very, very in your face and make sure that you hear what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is pulverizing and gets people's attention. I felt that Kells didn't do that,
He
and
should
it
have
was a
just
waste.
attacked him.
Yeah, it was a wasted opportunity. But yeah, we move.
Exactly. Well, let's move to that co-main event because Ty Mitchell, in his own backyard, captures the Misfits Boxing Pro Light Heavyweight title in really emphatic fashion. He outclassed Idris Virgo. I know a lot of people were a bit on the fence about the stoppage, saying it was a tad early. What did you think about that co-main event?
I think it was, the build up was great. The first time we've seen Idris Virgo have actual heat that mattered to the fans, not go away heat, the
Mhm.
heat that made him a villain. And I think he's got that buzz now for the first time. His engagement is higher. People are, you know, he's leaned into that art. And I don't think he did it on purpose to begin with. I think he thought he would have the fans on his side because he gets to be the hero, but he's become the villain, and he's got to lean into it and make the most of it. And I think, I'm thinking of him against Anthony Taylor
Oh,
next.
interesting. When could we
Yeah,
expect that fight?
because Anthony is the opposite. Anthony used to have go away heat, which isn't good heat.
Mhm.
Idris has always had go away heat until now, you know? So he's got the heat of a villain, and Anthony Taylor has turned into a babyface. And I think that's the perfect fight. And Anthony Taylor has gotten a lot better, and he wants to prove himself and redeem that loss. So I think that's the fight to make.
Well, Ty Mitchell's now come
Mm.
in with two emphatic wins and two incredible performances. So, where do you sort of take someone like Ty Mitchell now? What can we expect to see from him later on this year?
I think he'll get a couple more fights, and then we'll start challenging the likes of Ben Whitaker.
Interesting.
Love it. Love it. Couple other fights that appeared on this card: Fox and Waleed, Joey Knights and Andy Housen. What else stood out to you before we take it to the main event?
Fox stood
Mm.
out. I've seen the kid grow up from the first time I got in touch with him, saw him on YouTube, and thought this guy's a character. He's very quirky and interesting, and I had no idea he had no idea he could box at that point. Um, but he really became a fan of Misfits and started being more and more engaged and started boxing in his local club. And um, I've seen him grow up, and I'm very proud of him. I'm also proud of Waleed because I think he put on a great fight. He had a great
Mhm.
show. Maybe he underestimated Fox a little, but Fox is what, 18, 19 years old. He has all the potential in the world, to turn pro at some point. Um, I think we pace. His pace is quick. He's moving up the ranks fast. A lot of people thought that him fighting Waleed was a little premature,
Yeah.
but man, did he deliver. And I think, him against the likes of Deen and Cray Cray is on the horizon somewhere,
Absolutely.
not too distant future.
Well, I think Waleed's now taken three losses back to back. So, where does someone like Waleed go from here? Do you match him up with someone a bit lower and start building him up once again, or are you going to put him in the deep end again?
I think there's certain fights that make sense for Waleed. Waleed and Joey Knight,
Mm.
Joey Knight and Dave Fogarty. There's all kinds of matches. Argentinian King in that mix. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. There's definitely some good matches to be made. It's a tough division.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's take it to the main event. Darren Till, Darren Stewart, 8-round war. Almost a buzzer beater from the gorilla with a beautiful left hand on the dentist, but Stewart remained as durable as ever. I mean, what did you think about that? It was a pretty back and forth war.
Oh, it was great. I mean, we all thought that it was going to be a very short fight during the first round when Darren Stewart
Hmm.
got knocked down, and then uh, Till is very sharp. He's very accurate. I think I'd like to see more volume from him, and also, but Darren Stewart had a game plan. He kept cornering Till and putting him up against the ropes and having his way. So I scored that fight 4 rounds apiece, other than the knockdown. So Till would have won even without the final
Hmm.
knockdown, but that really sealed it, you know. And it just showed that Darren Till was fighting a guy who had a head made out of concrete
Hmm.
and a very, very, very tough, durable guy, made for a great fight. And he's here to stay, man. This guy's got a lot of buzz. I've been told, I don't know the exact numbers yet, but I've been told we did very, very well in this. I'm curious to see if it did as well as the January card, because if it did, that's two consecutive cards that have set records for us for non-pay-per-views, if that's the case. So I'll find out very soon.
And I believe it was a sold out show in Derby. All
Yeah,
seats were bought. So fantastic there. What is next for both guys? What would you want to see for Darren Stewart?
but Darren Stewart, I would want to see. I got to give it some thought, but I really enjoyed working with him.
Mm.
Um, and I think he was very vulnerable at the end, honest, good guy. It meant a lot to him that he was part of such an amazing fight,
Yeah.
and there was some humility there and some grace, and I think he's more than anything, he's a really tough guy. So I think he can make for some interesting matches. Uriah Hall, maybe someone like that. We'll figure it out from.
Well, Darren
And for
Till actually has
Till,
taken. Oh, sorry, Ben. Sorry for interrupting. But I think Darren Till actually took to social media now saying that he's got some big news coming in the next few weeks. So is there potentially already something being discussed?
There's something being discussed.
You see, I see a smirk there, Mams. You seem very excited by it.
I am, man. I am. I'm just waiting for story of my life. I'm waiting for my dates and my budgets, and then I can put all these plans into play, hopefully. So if I'm able to do that, I will be a very happy man. Misfits has a very strong year ahead of it. So
does it rhyme with Schmotty Schmuri? Till's
no comment.
opponent.
No
Fair
comment.
enough. I love it. I love it. Well, let's talk about that guy, Tommy. Because he just fought in, I believe, Budapest, as did Roman. What did you make of those performances? I know you were pretty vocal about it on Twitter.
Look, I think Tommy and Darren Till is a good fight. I think it's a very even fight. I don't think I don't I think the styles make fights, and watching Darren Till, I think he could be intimidating if the Tommy Fury that showed up that night in where was it?
I think Budapest.
Budapest, yeah.
Budapest. I think he might fall short against KSI and Darren Till if they were to fight him on that night. But I do think a different Tommy Fury shows up for those fights, because I think he'll know that he won't be forgiven if he shows up as he was. He's got some ring rust. We've all got to give him a little bit of a pass for that. But ultimately, his opponent wasn't a tough challenge, was he?
I think we can completely agree on that one. Is there any conversation of having him back on Misfits again, potentially?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think it's just got to be the right fight, and I think him against Darren Till is the right fight. I think it's a really good match,
Yeah.
and if Tommy Fury beat Jake Paul, and he got the scorecards against KSI, right or wrong. So really, he's kind of, he was the king of the mountain until he pulled out from Darren Till.
Yeah.
And the Darren Till fight. And I think that if he solidified a win against Darren Till, that would be pretty impressive. And he'd be the guy to beat. But if Darren beat Tommy, then Darren would be the guy to beat for Jake and KSI. And because look, at the end of the day, I'm just talking pure results and boxing. Tommy got the win, and against both those guys. And Darren, I don't know, man. Darren's a tough fight. I think we all can see why maybe he was hesitant to take that fight for his first fight back after a hiatus as well and after surgery. But yeah, look, I've got big plans for Darren Till, so he's gonna have a fun year ahead of him.
And quickly, Roman Fury and Chase Demore. After what was a really, really great performance from Chase, I think the best version of him that we've seen. Do we make this this quote unquote super fight?
Look, I like to. I'll make an effort to make fights, but it's got to be proportionate to what the fight is worth.
Yeah.
And in terms of the amount of headache that I'm willing to take. So I don't know. If he wants to fight, he knows where we are. We would make that fight, but there's no list of demands that we're going to adhere to for that fight. So it's got to be fair for everyone, and that's it. So I think I'm very impressed with Chase. He's definitely leveled up. Look, if he tightens up a couple of things, he's going to be a problem for a lot of people in the heavyweight division. And I think he's the champion of the heavyweight division for Misfits. But even outside of Misfits, I think there's a lot of interesting fights to make for him. But yeah, he's got a couple of good options ahead of him. So I don't think it's his next fight is probably not going to be Roman.
I got you. Talking about good things ahead. Aaron the Plumber. Talk to me about this guy because I was totally unaware of who this individual was. And now the last 4 days, I can't get away from him. What's this guy's story? Why are we getting him on Misfits?
He's hilarious. He's got a lot of personality, and he's a strong, tough guy, you know. And I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna make a splash. I think he's a superstar. He was at my house yesterday. We were making his entrance music,
Oh,
and
interesting. Well, are
yeah,
you involved in creating the track for Aaron the Plumber?
yeah. I think we'll see, but I think we're going to use that track from last night. It's a really cool idea, and we just got in the studio and locked in, and he hit my punch machine a couple of times, and
Did he beat your
What was
score
the
though,
score?
Mams? Yeah,
Yeah, what was
did
his
he
high
beat the
score?
Mams Taylor score?
no, but I've had a lot of practice on that. Like my high score is 968 on that machine, so um, it's not easy to beat, but I can't fucking beat 968. I've gotten 968 like 3 times, and I can't
Machine's
I can't
broke.
beat it. No, I want to go to 970, and then I'll be a happy man. But yeah, no, he was getting like the high 800s. It's pretty got a good punch on him, and he's anyway. You can't measure what he's going to do in the boxing ring when he was on that punch machine. But I
Yeah.
think I'm excited for his debut, and it's coming very soon, and I think it's going to be very entertaining.
Who are some opponents? Who are some people that Aaron the Plumber could potentially be squaring off
No
with?
one you guys will guess.
All right. Well,
Really?
that's why I'm giving you the option. I'm giving you.
Um, but I think there's some potential surprises down the line as well. So I think, look, let's get him to have his debut, see how it goes, and then there's some natural matchmaking that's going to happen in that weight division that I think will really spark people's interest.
Well, talking about surprises, Dean and Slim have been going back and forth on Twitter, and you've had a few words to say as well. What's going on there? Have you actually reached out to them? You said about them doing a catch weight at 150. Is this actually something that can come into fruition?
152 and a half. Yeah. I well, Dean thought that I'm siding with Slim because I put an emoji underneath his tweet about shocking news. I'm just shit stirring. I have no idea what Slim has on Dean, and I'm not taking sides at all. I just want to see an entertaining fight. Dean signed to Misfits for 2 more fights at least, and we've made up. Slim and I made up in terms of behind the scenes. Kind of, we're all cool. So for me, if they both want to do it, which they've said they do, then I think Misfits is the only place to make that happen.
Another matchup that, Misfits is really the only place for this type of fight. Ed Matthews, Bdave, they've had some public back and forth interactions. Bdave suggesting that Ed turned down 80 grand to fight him. What do you think about this? Is this a fight that's next for both guys?
Yeah, definitely. That fight's pretty much it's pretty locked. So it's just about
Yeah.
the date and venue, but that's what's next for both of those guys.
Well, I think you threw a little dig earlier on, which I need to go into the 92.5. Mams, you've been going back and forth with Nikisa Badarian on X. Can you talk me through what's actually going on? Now there's a lot back and forth, so I want to understand the nitty gritty.
I mean, it's all there on Twitter, but what else do you want to know?
Is there any truth behind what's being said here? So he's obviously gone to Twitter and said that there's been offers on the table. He left an offer to Wasserman's for 2 weeks and you guys didn't respond. And I wanted to know, is this true? What's really
No.
going on? It's the real negotiations happening now.
Yeah, he left us an offer. Actually, I spoke to him on the phone on my way to New York for the event in Times Square, and I said I'm going to send him an offer. And then and I said I'm going to send a very fair offer, knowing what Jake wants, knowing what KSI wants. I'm going to keep it as in the middle as possible, equidistance of sacrifice, equidistance of compromise between the two to make this happen. And he said okay, and then DAZN sent me literally the day we had his offer ready. DAZN sent me an offer from him that got to Call's spam. Okay. And Calla was on holiday, and so I was like, "Oh, did you get this?" He's like, "Yeah, it was in my spam." And it was 5 days. It was 4 days. 4 days. It wasn't 2 weeks. I don't believe it. I could be wrong, but I think it was 4 or 5 days. Um, but yeah, certainly wasn't 2 weeks. That I can guarantee you. Um, and anyway, we got the offer and sent our offer on the same day that we became aware of the offer, that DAZN sent it to us. And because we've been working on it all week, so his offer made no mention of Misfits. Um, it was a very one-sided offer that's just not going to work. So it, it's got to be a fair fight. It's got to be a fair fight, as fair
Yeah.
as it can be.
What, what's a fair fight in your eyes? How do we make this fight happen? What was the offer you guys sent?
Look, bear in mind that before Jake fought Nate Diaz, we had agreed tentatively had agreed a fight with KSI and Jake Paul at 180 pounds with a 10-pound rehydration clause. Okay.
Wow.
So that was agreed, and now we've moved all the way to 190. That was the first time we'd sent contracts back and forth. And all seemed to be more or less agreed. There were a few little bits and bobs, but that was the major issue. And it was like 170, 177.5 with no rehydration, or 180 and a 10-pound rehydration. And they chose the 180 with the 10-pound rehydration. Now we're 190 with no rehydration. Jake's put on weight. So KSI's obviously trying. We're trying to make this fight happen and following suit in weight to some degree. But listen, Jake's body frame is a lot bigger than KSI's. So, unless you want Fat Neek back, an in shape KSI, it's going to be hard to go above that weight. And it'll be a struggle for him, and it'll be a struggle for Jake. But I think it'll be an equal struggle at 190. If it's any more than that, and it's like, oh, it's only 2 pounds. Yeah, but it's only 10 pounds that we've gone up already. So
Yeah.
where do you draw the line? It's like, oh, it's another 2 pounds. Then 192. Then it's like, oh, 195. It's only another 2 pounds. 197. It's only another 2 pounds. Where does it end? So you've got to draw the line somewhere. And I think we're close. I think it's undoubtedly the biggest fight in the world today. Not just for Jake, but for both, for everybody in the world. It's the biggest fight in terms of numbers. There's not a bigger fight out there.
Did you see what Jake said, where he said that he doesn't actually need this fight, but KSI does?
I'm all KSI has. He's literally nothing without the Paul brothers.
So KSI doesn't even need to fight. Jake does. That's what Jake does. And I'm not taking that away. All due respect to him, that he's dedicated all his life to boxing, all his time. And he's training like a boxer. KSI is doing BGT. KSI is doing Sidemen. KSI is doing soccer matches. He's doing YouTube. He's doing Misfits stuff outside of boxing. Prime. The list goes on. Ballers League. It's a very different level of commitment that Jake has to this. And that being said, if you're hunting for a world title, okay, and you've had double the experience at least, if not triple, and you fought all these guys who are legends, and you think your level of opponents have been so much better, and you're so much better than KSI, then why make such a fuss, man? Just fucking do the fight. We know this fight is something the fans need. Well, let's not shit on the fans and say, oh, I don't care, I've got bigger things to do. None of us need this fight. That's for sure. It's not a money thing. KSI does very well without it. So if KSI never fights again, he'll be absolutely great and he will be fine. If he does fight again, he wants it to be for something meaningful and something big. So the opponent list that we have, it's a beautiful list that's going to do great numbers regardless of who's on it. But if I'm honest, which I am, KSI versus Jake is the fight. That's the fight everybody wants to see and has wanted to see for the last six or 7 years now. So it's now or never. Shit will get off the pot. And if not, cool. At least, look, it's a piece of the legacy. It's a piece of the legacy puzzle for both of them. And as much as Jake wants to deny that he's started on Disney Channel, YouTube, Vine, YouTube, all that stuff. They're in the same circles of fan bases, you know? And the ones who have stuck around for Jake and for JJ, they've all wanted to see this for a long time. And it's like, let's make it happen. And if you're miles and miles ahead, what are you worried about? Just stop trying to have like unfair advantages. You know?
Yeah.
It's don't you want to test yourself against a guy, you know, and if you say, oh, it's not a test for me, then what are you worried about? Just agree to everything and do
Right.
it. Because what I've laid out is fair. I've said MVP and Misfits, everything 50-50 down the line, control, consent of, oh, we want this on the card, we want that on the card. They don't even want any influencers on the undercard, you know? And that's a terrible mistake because these guys came from that space. So if you want to maximize the potential of where this goes, that's you need to have a hybrid. You need to have some respected pros, some there's no problem. This is, you know, and let's not, and this is what I was saying the other day is like, look, man, if you want to make out, and look, what MVP is doing with women's boxing is awesome, man. They're cornering that market. They've got a lot of talent there. Let's give them their respect where it's due. They're definitely giving some attention to a very neglected space, you know, and trying to bring it center stage. So you gotta give them respect for that. They're doing something cool, but it doesn't take away from your credibility if KSI and Jake fight each other. If anything, it has more credibility, actual credibility, than fighting a guy who's 100 pounds underweight compared to you, or fighting a guy who's almost 60 years old, albeit that he's an absolute legend, you know, credibility wise, he's actually fighting a guy who's his age or similar age group and still in his prime. And he's fighting a guy who's of similar weight, as long as you're not weight bullying him too much. So it's you know, it's not any more of a circus than previous antics. You don't fight people who, you know, like you want to fight Tank Davis, who's 100 pounds lighter than you, and say that that's not a spectacle. It's a great spectacle. I'm not putting it down. It's great, but call it what it is. You know, did you know other world champions, but actual world champions? Did Joshua, when he became world champ, was he fighting Manny Pacquiao and asking him to come up to 200 plus pounds? You know, no. So if you're gonna go down that route and it's smart business for you, amazing. But just call it what it is. If there's a little more honesty, there'll be a lot more respect. So it annoys me when it's like, listen, at least Survivor Tag, it's four heavyweights that are the same age, same weight, you
Same
know,
experience level. Yeah.
same experience level. And it's, you know, okay, it's Survivor Tag. I get it. It's a bit of a spectacle. No problem. It's not traditional, but it's at least fair. So for me, it's like, let's make this happen, and let's stop fucking around with all this other stuff and ego stuff of like, oh, you can't have this in your name. This has to be. We don't want to do it with Misfits. It's got to be with Wasserman. It's like, no. KSI owns Misfits. Jake owns MVP. It's KSI versus Jake. And we even said, look, on the billing, KSI versus Jake on all Misfits channels, Jake versus KSI on all MVP channels. The zone can alternate it week by week, you know? So I thought of everything I could to pacify any egos being challenged. You know, they can't both walk out lost. So there's one solution. Just flip a coin and let you know, whoever wins that coin toss gets to walk out last. No problem. We'll take it. If we lose that coin toss, no problem. We're not going to complain. And listen, the ring was 20 by 20 ring in the proposal that we previously discussed. Why is it now 18 by 18? Like, I really hope that they want to make this fight happen because we're putting time into it, and I don't, you know, none of us want to waste our time, and we don't want to waste your time or the fans' time. And it's just the biggest fight. It's the bit. It's the Prime card did the biggest numbers in the last 5 years, right? this will dwarf the Prime card. This will do insane amount of buys. So, let's get it on.
I guess one last few questions before we get to the community questions. Would Logan Paul be potentially in conversation to be on that card? Jake and KSI, Logan fighting someone as well. I mean, that would probably add to that
Logan
flair.
Logan is such a phenomenal wrestler, you know,
Mm.
and he's really enjoying it, and it's a lot more natural for him than boxing. And I think that's where his stance is on this. I think there's a couple of fights that might be a turn on to him. And if that's the case, yeah, we'd be more than happy to accommodate, I'm sure. But again, it would be a case of Misfits and MVP mutually approving every fight on this card. That's what I've proposed. So, we'll come up with ideas, but before we get ahead of ourselves, let's tighten. Let's go into a room and not leave until we get this sorted.
Ariel to
Until
stream
we're
it.
ready to sign. That's what I'm saying. We get this done. Put our egos to the side. There's no ego. We just want to make this fight happen.
Sort of final question I have on this topic is obviously KSI has been rumored to return. Unfortunately, we haven't seen it for a while, and he has now detailed that he's had this right hand injury for so long now, and he's looking to potentially get it operated. Could you maybe detail me what's the update in regards to that? Is he going to get it operated? How is
Yeah.
he going to plan his return?
Yeah. He's gonna have his surgery, and then we're gonna start figuring things out.
Do you
But,
have any sort of time frame of when he's going to get it done?
No, I don't know how long it'll take to heal, but we have some ideas. We have plan A, B, C kind of thing. And he's very much, I think, being at Misfits reinvigorated his excitement. But at the same time, look, the most important thing for me is his health. And I think focusing on that is the right thing to do, and then see what happens from there.
Now, Ben, I don't know about you, but do you want to head over to the community questions now?
Yep, let's take it to the community questions. First one, Lesra Gomez, the fridge, asking how many more fights before Fox the G competes for the belt.
Maybe one or two.
Unbear asks, when will we get the Misfits Royal Rumble? Now that's a good question.
The king of the it's called Misfits Mountain. Misfits Mountain.
Yeah, Misfits Mountain.
And who will be the king of the mountain? I've put that in for the end of the year.
Nice.
Okay.
Now, Trey Young's hairline, he asks, when will Gib come back?
I think Gib likes to fight once a year. So let's see. I have to check in with him and see what he's up to. But yeah, I'd like to see Gib back.
I had a mandatory question from Chase. He actually called me and he said, I have to ask, what constitutes as a KO from a TKO?
A KO is what Chase did. If you can't beat the count, it's a KO. If I don't know why that wasn't a KO. That should have been a KO. A technical knockout is a ref stoppage, towel being thrown in, something like that. But I don't recall seeing any of that. It was a 10 count that he couldn't beat, so it should be a KO.
Gib the Greatest asks, when will the cruiserweight tournament continue?
It'll continue from hopefully from the next card on. So
Fair.
the next card we're going to see it get back into play. It feels like the cruiserweight tournament was represented very well in that score counting sort of pause in the Survivor tag. That's what it feels like has happened with the cruiserweight tournament. So
Yeah.
I'd like it to keep running, and we're back on track with the semifinals, and then it's smooth, and no more of these delays, hopefully.
Have you had communication with Le'Veon Bell, Bruckner, Minicon, Mike Edwards?
Mike. Yeah, actually, what's his name? Minicon called me, texted me yesterday. We spoke on the phone last week. Mike Edwards, I messaged him and said I'll be in touch. I'm sorry for the delay, and that was a while ago, so I need to get in touch with him again. And yeah, I mean, there's conversations going, so I know they all are keen on it, getting back on track. So hopefully it will as soon as possible.
Well, our last community question is by Luke Rain. He asks, when is the next event?
I'm aiming for end of July, and I should know by tomorrow.
Amazing.
I love it. I love it. Exclusives abound here on Misfits News. One more from me before we wrap it up, Mams. I know that you responded to this on social media, but Idris Virgo is seemingly not accepting this loss, still claiming to be undefeated, still claiming to be the champion. Just a quick response to the former champ's tweets and posts.
I think there might be an alternate universe that he's living on.
Fair enough. I love it. Well, Mams Taylor, thank you so much for the time here on Misfits News. Make sure you tune into the next episode for the latest and greatest updates in the world of crossover combat sports.